Welcome to the Non-Breaking Space Show from Austin, Texas. I'm the Internet's Christopher Schmidt. On today's show, we are joined with Simon St. Laurent, the content manager at LinkedIn Learning. This week, we talk about the recent problems with self-driving cars, the rise of GDPR, the new Star Wars movie Solo, 10 years ago on Twitter, and much, much more. Before we get started, some things I'd like you to know. The UX Design newsletter is a weekly list of articles, tutorials, and inspiration handpicked by me. Sign up at uxdesignnewsletter.com and have the best links of the week sent to your email. So set it and forget it with a Non-Breaking Space show newsletter. So whenever a new show is ready, you'll get notified right away in your inbox. Just sign up at newsletter.nonbreakingspace.tv. Do you know we have a YouTube channel? Yep, we got one of those. Brand spanking new thing. You can watch the show, unedited episodes at youtube.com/Non-Breaking Space Show. If you hear about a site or a resource that's in this episode, chances are it's going to be in our show episode page on the nonbreakingspace.tv website. Be sure to follow me, Christopher, on Twitter at Teleject, TELEJECT. As always, thank you for telling others about the Non-Breaking Space Show. Now, on with the show. Well, welcome back, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here again.
Cool. Yeah. Let's just get into the top news, man.
Sure.
That's all right.
The world gets ever stranger.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Number one.
The first one is a woman says her Amazon device, which is the Amazon Echo, recorded private conversations between her and her husband, and then sent them to a random contact. I guess it was connected to her husband's account. So that was kind of crazy. That was husband and wife were talking to each other, and then they get a phone call from the husband's, I think, employee or colleague, and says like, turn off all your Amazon Echoes because you're being hacked. And so they did that, and they're like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, well, let me tell you, you guys were just talking about
right.
Like XYZ domestic, like issues, and so I was like, oh yeah, we were just talking about that. And so, everyone knows that Amazon, or has a suspicion that Amazon's listening and taking all your audio in. And so, but now they have an explanation, sort of. Something sounded enough like Alexa, something sounded enough like another command. I think they concluded by saying this is supposed to be a very, very rare event, and we will take more steps to make sure it's even more rare, which doesn't quite mean they can fix the problem, because I don't think they actually can. They just don't want it to happen very often. Right. And that they do is kind of a sign that it doesn't happen that often. My Facebook feed didn't light up with people saying, yeah, that happened to me too. But I think maybe there will be fewer people naming their children Alexa. Yeah, there was actually a story, and I'm not sure how true it is, but kids named Alexa has dropped amazingly, has almost like cratered, so no one's really named.
Well, fortunately, I don't think there were a whole lot of kids named Google or OK. So
yes, we named our kid OK Cupid. All right, great, yeah.
Yes, there is the classic Little Bobby Table story from XKCD where their child with the right combination of SQL characters to hack school databases.
Oh man, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have these things in my house. I mean, obviously, I have a cell phone, so but I don't. I tried voice recognition a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I decided I was not the kind who did really well with dictation anyway, so I chucked it, and I've kind of never come back. Mm-hmm. I did check. Google will let you see what they've recorded of you.
Oh yeah.
Which sounds like it would be great fun, except that for me it was completely empty. So, these are easy problems to avoid if you're willing to accept the great cost of not having these devices. So,
I must admit I am kind of worried because I do have these devices in my home, and so it just solves a lot of issues where the light switch is not where I want the light switch to be, or it's not really handy, and so I can actually turn on lights when I can walk into a room or whatnot. And so
I think that's the main draw for Alexa for me is actually like, just the Internet of Things being connected. You give a voice command and all of a sudden, like, a light bulb across the room turns on. So that's kind of,
it's Star Trek.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And so I've gotten kind of used to it, and just giving out verbal commands just when no one's around,
right,
like, and stuff happens. So, but it does freak me out because I think Amazon, Jeff Bezos, like, said like in his post that he knows, like, in some sort of PR thing, he's like, I know how many people use this like turn on lights command like yesterday or something like that, or it was like last week.
Right.
Or I was like, huh. Is that the...
Well, that's the joy of analytics.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I just installed a pull chain switch, so obviously I'm not the right target market. And it took about 6 hours, so it was not an easy or fun project. I think about the number of microphones I have in my house, even if I just think about the ones that are like actively connected and possibly on. The one I'm talking to you on, the one that sits on my computer silent, the work laptop one, my wife's laptop one. Oh, there's this iPad. I don't know. I should probably check with Apple and see if they have any interesting recordings of my kids beyond what's on the iPad immediately. It seems to be becoming common. I mean, we're getting to the point where people are asking, should we be making Alexa ask for please so that our kids get better trained to be polite?
Oh, yeah, there you
go. Many things are changing here. I've just stepped off the bus for now.
Right. Yeah. I think, I definitely would like after like 7 commands, if Alexa doesn't hear a please, I think she's just like, well, I think you should say the magic word
Yes.
before I do it again. So, but yeah, that'd be kind of nice. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. So I'm not, I guess I've embraced the Kool-Aid. So, and just,
so have a lot of people.
Yeah. So,
and there are cases where I think like it's a way better option than anything else. I mean, especially for people who have limited mobility. Mm-hmm. This is like powerful magic that lets them get things done.
Right.
And I've known authors who dictated their books, which my brain just doesn't work that way.
I don't know how you do that.
They love
That's
it.
Crazy. Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yeah, I do like the idea of Amazon's like FaceTime device that is like a little orb thing that you buy and you actually like connect easily. Like it's like the future where like you actually have face-to-face, TV camera communications, but you have to have, I guess both parties have to have this Amazon Echo Cube. I forgot what it's called, but and I think that's pretty amazing. But and I wish Apple would actually make something like that for their FaceTime. But I believe that's called a telephone. So I'm not really sure they're into like making telephones anymore. So
they still call things phones.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah. We live in the age of orbs. Clearly, it's time to move from phones to orbs.
Yeah, the tablet is dead. We got to move to orbs. So and then we have to put an orb on a drone. So then we have flying drones. Flying orb drones.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I think then there'll be a lot of science fiction happening after that. So coming true. So cool. Awesome. All right. Next story.
Number 2
is a baboon briefly escapes a crate and roams loose in the San Antonio airport. So since I live in Austin, Texas, this made the news pretty rapidly just because you don't get to see that very often. But it's a rhesus macaque monkey. So it just briefly escaped. And so I guess he was being transported to a sanctuary, and so he got loose of his crate, which is always great. Which is I guess economy for monkeys, I guess. And
I guess they haven't started transporting us in crates very often yet. So
I flew a plane. I don't know who it was, but I think I flew the new Southwest Airlines design, and it looked great. A lot more, visually more appealing, but I felt like more sardined than before trying to get into that. So it was an issue there. But my favorite quote is that the zoo representatives who helped, help with the monkey, getting the monkey back into the crate was, we plan for this all the time. they do rehearsals and training.
Escaped monkey drills.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the airport is also like, we usually just get a cat. escapes, and then we have to track that down. So I'm not sure how much a monkey is a little different.
Maybe the monkey was looking for its orb. I don't know.
The drone orb. Like maybe it just said
the drone.
Yeah, Alexa, open crate, and then like, oh man, I forgot.
Now we're in deep trouble. I mean, I always like reminders that we're not the only ones around, and monkeys exploring airports is really deserves a meme or 20. Yeah. The video I saw was only like 2 seconds long, so I was a little sad about that. But there must be more.
Yeah, there's a little bit more. I was trying to hunt down the official PR statement from the airport, and I haven't found it yet. So I'm just hoping I can find that. And just because I feel like that'd be a good day of work. Like as a PR person, you walk in, a monkey goes around crazy, and it's your job to write the PR statement for that.
Why don't I get to do that?
Exactly. Number 3.
Okay, next story is that Uber is shutting down the self-driving. Well, actually, there's 2 stories. But about Uber in Arizona, and so the report. There's a death we reported earlier because our last episode we actually talked about the death of a woman who was killed by a Uber car. I think it was Uber, right? So yeah, it was Uber, and so the report came out. But actually, it was like the report came out after it was announced that Uber was firing its Arizona self-driving car program personnel. So that's over 300 people got laid off or fired, whatever the definition you want to go with, in Arizona. And then the next day it released that what was the cause of the problem was that it was really the driver was looking down at the Uber touchscreen when she probably should have been looking at the car at the road ahead, and so that was kind of the issue. So
and the software was all turned off. I mean,
yeah. So the software that was supposed to that would, I guess, tap the brakes, if you will, or the brakes was actually turned off, because when you're in that self-driving mode, it's turned off, because if it's not turned off, self-driving is a little erratic, I guess, because I guess it hits brakes all the time or something like that. And so, it sounded like she pressed the brakes like a second too late, like half a second too late for it to happen. So, and so they pulled out of Arizona, and you got to think, like, you can't really, if you're Uber, you still have the liability issues of selling that. So the legal issues are like just going to be a big cloud, right? Just for at least the next months or even years of.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona went way out of its way to make itself friendly to these kinds of tests, like legally. So I don't know what their actual civil or criminal liability is here. They may not technically have much, which is kind of weird. But it doesn't, I don't know, everything I've heard about Uber's self-driving program sounds sort of rushed and kind of moving in strange directions. And I think it's definitely in that move fast and break things mode. And that might not be such an awesome idea for cars. I keep going back to the conversation we had a few months ago that was really like the episode dedicated to self-driving vehicles and kind of the different levels of automation, cruise control. I mean, everything in the car is drive-by-wire at this point anyway. They do make the steering wheel feel like it's, doing something. But all these things are happening, but I kind of feel like we're trying to jump to the end a little too fast. There are things that I would love to have right now. Like if I could just have my car basically follow the car ahead of me as long as it doesn't take an exit. That would be great. That would be wonderful. Keep, safe driving distance, because I usually don't. And, restrain my constant urge to pass everyone. Except for that one car who's going faster than me. There always has to be one car going faster. But I feel like we're kind of leaping too far at once. I just was on the phone with a friend, and he was like, so, like, you've got Cornell there. Are they doing, like, self-driving car experiments on your roadways and stuff? And I'm like, not that I've
seen. I don't think I'd want to do them in Ithaca. It's steep, it's icy, it's got 7-way intersections.
Yeah.
It seems like a bad idea. Arizona seems perfect. If you can't make it work in Arizona, ugh.
Yeah, I think there's actually driving. We call them testing grounds in Arizona too. So, yeah, so like from the major car companies that we know and love that probably have car company, testing grounds there too. So it makes sense in a way. But Uber still has the San Francisco and Pittsburgh self-driving engineers up there, and so they made it sound in the press release like, oh well, we flew our engineers to Arizona to deal with that, from Pittsburgh and Arizona, and from San Francisco to Arizona. I was just like, so like seriously, that's 300 people though that you're just laying off. So
yeah,
but yeah,
I'm really curious. I mean, like, what a program like this looks like. I mean, you've got to have something that's like the world's craziest taxi garage, and then the people who are actually the drivers, in the cars following them along. It just, well, first of all, it seems like there should be a sitcom about this, but second, that's a pretty massive operation.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, and to your point about like, you just want the simple things of just tailing around the car behind you and stuff like that. But I mean, I think the moon shoot, the moon landing is to have a self-driving car work in like, not in rain, but just normal, like a sunny day type of situation. And so I think that's the moonshot. So I think that's, I think we're going to get there sooner than later, but yeah, that's still a lot of math to, a lot of math, a lot of like then the human process of like, going through a stop sign, psychology of that, and stuff like that. So especially the psychology of, I think you can write books about the psychology of like just humans dealing with a 4-way stop, with cars coming at each other. It's like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Like, who goes first? And,
I do 4-way stops like 4 times a day easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So, but like who goes first? Like, if you both get there the split second, difference.
You both go first. It's very
funny. Exactly. It's like, and then you get that whiplash of pressing the gas, going back and forth. I'm pretty sure it's in the book. So, in the handbook. So, but I always think it's like the person to your left, whoever's on your left, goes first.
I always thought the person on your right goes first.
Oh, really?
But who knows? It could vary in different states, or I could just be misremembering driver ed.
Yeah, and I could be totally wrong too, which has happened before. So yeah.
Well, actually, when I have these problems, there's usually some waving through the windshield.
Yeah, exactly.
And as long as you're not too tinted, it can work. This is where I wish we had something better as far as like turn signals go. There are times I really wish somebody had a signal for I'm going straight ahead, you go first. We sort of have the basic turn signals and flashing the high beams. But flashing the high beams can mean anything from I'm being generous and kind to I'm a jerk. I want to go around you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not so useful.
Yeah, that's what I get to, like the psychology of driving, of being human. So like you're talking about, like there's usually some communication going through the windshield, right? You can just see like a self-driving car like pops open like a robot, mannequin or whatever. It's like, no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. Like so. And so just in case the other car doesn't have a robot, driving it,
That needs to be part of the sitcom. Definitely. Like, the mannequin is a character.
All right, there you go. So.
Number 4.
The U.S. is running out of bombs and may soon to struggle more. Not really sure what to think about that one, but I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, a lot of it seems to be about concentrating too many things with too few people. I'm always going to be happy if there are fewer bombs. That's not even a question. But the number of organizations that actually know how to build these things is really tiny, and those organizations are huge. And it seems like everything should be great, except that I think about things like Ford having to stop their F-150 line because of a fire in a magnesium plant that made the bracket to connect the radiator to the engine block, I think.
Oh.
And they only had one supplier for it because, well, it was a pain and not easy to make, and why have too many people? Yeah. This seems like, in most of the technology stuff I deal with, the problem is that there are too many suppliers and too many choices. But in the manufacturing technology side, it always seems to come down to there are just a few people here who can do this thing for you, and how do you want to decide that? I don't know. The other thing, bomb making is really difficult.
Yeah.
It's just not a fun occupation once you get out of high school chemistry. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because like I just flash back to the story of people who just make fireworks displays, right? And so you lose your fingers with just making fireworks. So much less the bomb.
Those factories go up. It is spectacular and horrible.
Number 5.
Next story is the GDPR, which I think stands for your email box. You've got mail, and
well, I mean, I've seen some pictures of people who are actually in Europe who use lots of services who got 200 something emails. I went through and counted this morning. I had 47.
Okay, there you go.
Which seems reasonable. The earliest of them started in like March.
Okay.
So some people were a little further ahead of the story. I mean, personally, I was taking GDPR training in January that was required and watching stuff about it last year. Most people seem to have just caught on to it this week.
They get that.
So that's pretty bizarre. Also, I mean, we talked last time about how I took Google Analytics off all my sites, and it wasn't that it was required by GDPR, because Google does technically cover GDPR for that. But I don't know. It was much nicer to put up a little thing today that says, this site does not track you. Enjoy.
Yeah. So I guess for people who don't know, like GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. Yes. And so it's, I guess it's like, it gives more control over people who use the internet and has the onus of companies to be more transparent and give options to users.
If you want to track people, I mean, basically, if you want to spy on people, it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
This makes it harder. And it's European, but it applies to European citizens, not just people geographically in Europe. So effectively, I mean, like the Los Angeles Times today put up they're just not providing newspaper service to Europe today because they aren't ready for GDPR. Which doesn't work so well because there are like Germans in Chicago and Los Angeles and stuff. So, I spent years and years talking with people who were really enthusiastic about all this data they were going to have on people, and serving them ads they'll actually click on, and we'll make tons of money, and we'll know everything about them.
They're called marketers, right? Is that right?
There are marketers, and then there are marketers. Yeah. I have at least one friend who's a marketer who went deep to the heart of this and came away shaken and is not returning.
Oh, wow.
There are also, like, there was a thing a few years ago where like Axiom would let you get your file on yourself. And this sparked a whole bunch of articles on how, wow, these people are really, really wrong. Which I guess is kind of like what happens when people get their FBI files. The FBI thinks, I have 3 children. I wonder how that happened.
There's a file for that.
There's a file for that. Yes, that's the extra file. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy just to see like the cost of surveillance is climbing, and Europe is saying you can do it with consent or under these circumstances. If you need someone's name to provide them with the service, you need their mailing address to ship them something. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. But everything else, well, maybe you should have to ask for it in a way that actually asks for something. Right. I'll be very curious to see. There was a lawsuit this morning already filed against Google and Facebook by a privacy attorney in Europe who was tangled with Google before and won. Basically saying that they were offering all or nothing. You can use our services or you can go away. And that's not legit under GDPR. Oh, right. So I think there are going to be a lot of legal jobs for a while. Yeah. But I suspect that, and there are going to be some jobs disappearing, like those really hardcore marketer, broker, send your data, everything around. Those folks are going to have a really hard time of it. Yeah. I don't think they'll entirely go away. I think some of them will go underground. Yeah. But it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely the next time we talk, I think we'll definitely like see what the fallout for that has been. But But yeah, you probably talked. You work for a larger organization than I do, and so we had some focus on like, well, as a smaller company, like what do we do? And so it came down to like, it came down to like, if you happen to have user data on your laptop, make sure your laptop is encrypted. And so
right.
And so that means like, so I looked into that because I don't know what that means exactly. So that's like 5 volts for Mac OS, and so you have to turn that on. And if you lose your laptop, or you lose your password to your laptop, then you are not going to get your data back.
No.
So
no, I think we're going to be restructuring a lot of that. I mean, the basic thing, the reason for that is that if you have a data breach that involves customer data, you have to report it now. It is not yet clear that anything terrible happens to you for having a data breach. It's just that it has to be visible, which I guess will probably make attorneys look around to see if anything terrible happened as a result. Yeah. For years, I've heard, I don't know, it's sort of the awkward conversation at conferences was the how much data did you lose last year? And some of the stories from like large scale organizations are crazy. Like we lost all of these backup tapes and I don't know. People used to have social security numbers in like every spreadsheet about college students because we had to have them there somehow. A lot of the headache with GDPR, a lot of the reason that people are getting like 200 emails is that we haven't exactly been practicing data hygiene for most of the time we've had computers. Some organizations did. There were rules about like what information banks are allowed to exchange about you and stuff like that. There were always some kinds of compliance stuff, but advertising compliance, what?
Yeah.
So we've made a mess. Cleaning it up is going to be painful.
Yeah. Well, there's also like a minor point was also like, is that if someone gives you a business card, that doesn't mean that they want to be added to your mailing list. So I've had that happen before. Like I give someone a business card and all of a sudden they're like, they assume that I'm going to be on their mailing list. There wasn't like an overt necessary. Yeah. Like, and one time, like, and to his credit, he's like, hey, thanks for, contacting me. It was like a group email blast, everyone he met at a conference, and like, I'll add you to this mailing list. I'm like, I didn't really want to be added to the mailing list. I just wanted your slides. So I don't know, a link to your slides. I didn't really want to, So.
Right. Well, and at conferences, like you have the whole badge scanning set up where they just are like grabbing your contact information for every possible interaction. Yeah. And that's going to change, I think.
Yeah, it would be interesting also to see how, there's large conferences here, like now South by Southwest, where like they've gone RFID. I don't know if that's going to interfere with Europeans who show up and, really get tracked unless they have to.
That they might be able to just, like when you register, have a flag, are you an EU citizen?
Yeah.
Or just do not track.
Yeah.
But it definitely will require a change in the way they do business.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how this shakes out. What do you think U.S. Lawmakers are going to adapt something similar, or
when hell freezes over? I mean, something like that. No, I mean we're just like, I don't know. I don't see this as any kind of a time for more regulations to appear. Mm-hmm. I pretty much think that it's not something that can easily be done at like the state level. Mm-hmm. I think the European Union was smart at least to say, okay, this is something we've been trying to do country by country, but that doesn't really make sense or have enough oomph.
Right.
In the U.S., like New York State has talked about similar things occasionally, once in a while, before the lobbyists from all the advertisers in the city get at them. Mm-hmm. I don't see it happening here. I definitely don't see it happening at the federal level.
Right.
It could happen over time. Like if GDPR evolves into a workable model that then gets to become part of treaties, then I could see that. We talk about trade treaties and maybe having like an environmental thing, having a data codicil. Codicil, I got to say that. That's an exciting word. Something like that. I probably mispronounced it too. I could see it happening that way, but I don't see it happening in the U.S. otherwise.
Yeah, I agree because I felt like if you looked at what happened with Facebook and their, privacy issues, and the fact that, Zuckerberg went to Congress and for 2 days answered questions, that were just the questions were like, just so, like I think I talked about the last episode. It was just like, elder statesmen asking questions from their younger junior staff to a young billionaire IT professional who was trained by elder PR professionals to answer those questions. And so I really don't think we'll get like and if we do get, like, the thing I hate to say this is, like, if we do get a law that addresses these issues, it's going to be not in our users' best interest. So,
no, like the one exception I was going to say to that is if, Facebook and Google could somehow get their act together to write such a law. And I don't think the entire tech community would line up with them. Apple and Microsoft both seem to have much less enthusiasm for such a plot. I think for Apple, it's simple. They sell the devices and not the data. Microsoft is a much more complicated mix. But I don't, as important as Facebook and Google are, I doubt they could pull that one off. And I don't think they'd really like to work together on it either. So that's kind of another fun question.
Right. Oh, man.
Number 6.
Next story is the new Star Wars movie is out.
So you saw it?
Yeah,
right?
I went saw it last night.
I saw pictures of you as Chewbacca.
Yes.
The world is back to its correct place again.
Exactly.
It's good.
Yeah, it's I saw some reviews, like spoiler-free reviews, and one of them was like, "Hey, it's not a Solo movie, it's a Chewbacca movie." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to go dress as a Chewbacca." So
perfect.
And it's 90 degrees in Austin, so that was fun. Yeah. I asked Ari to put me in a AC bubble as Chewbacca. So when I walked there, she said no, that was not going to happen. So, but
could you? The suit is huge. Could you build like a small air conditioner into it someplace? Could that?
No, man. I wish I could. But
Chewie's backpack is really an air conditioner. Right?
Yeah, like the C-3PO I carry on my backpack is actually
there.
There. That'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I was kind of like bummed because when Force Awakens came out, it was a big to-do because it's like the first major Star Wars movie in a long time. Right. And then Last Jedi came out, I assume was a big deal. I was in hospital when that happened. It
was less of a big deal than The Force Awakens, but it was still a big deal.
Right. And then we had like Rogue One, which is like, the trailer looked awesome. And then they spent like $40 million fixing it somehow. And that cool TIE fighter scene coming up at the end in the trailer didn't make the cuts. Yeah. And so, and I was kind of riding this wave. It was like, cause I missed the Last Jedi premiere and I walked in there like, okay, it's Star Wars. And like no one was really excited for it as much as a few people
Really?
Yeah, a few people dressed up like I did. Like there was a stormtrooper. There were some people with weird lightsaber characters that I did not know. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not like, whoa, guys. I don't know what Jedi or Sith Lord you are, but
they might be like my daughter who make up new characters. Yeah. Like there's Yodi, who's Yoda's little sister.
Oh, that's awesome. That is adorbs. That is awesome. So I was really kind of like down about the whole thing because like I dressed with Chewbacca, but it is fun because people like take photos of Chewbacca, which is great. So I got some people took some photos on the way out, but and I enjoyed the movie. I'm here to say I did not like Last Jedi. I think it's you can listen to the past review of that.
We talked about
we don't have to go through it again. Okay. But this one I felt like it was. Its plot is pretty simple. It's a heist movie. It explains things about Han and Chewbacca's relationship, and a lot. It has Lando in it, and it's it is kind of a Chewbacca movie, which is what they said. And so but he doesn't take over the movie or anything like that. It's Han is the main character.
We still need the Chewbacca movie.
Yeah, we still need the Chewbacca movie. But the supporting cast, the characters is really good. Throughout the movie, great actors and actresses. Harrison Ford does a great job. A guy who plays Vision from the Marvel movies, which his name escapes me, but he's in it. So just really great actors. And then Ron Howard, if he ever kept if you watch the trade magazines for movies, you notice that now he came in kind of in the middle of production because of the people who did Lego movie were left because of creative differences in quotes. And so people were like, "Oh, this is going to be a steaming pile of garbage" when it shows up. And it was actually a very competent movie. I feel like it's of the new Star Wars movies, it's the most polished. Good. Like from start to finish, I didn't feel like things were punches were held back. And what I mean by that, there's like some scenes in Force Awakens where like if they just did this one thing, it'd been really cool, like inspiring and like awesome. But they didn't have the budget to do that, or and specifically what one scene that's a symptom of what I'm talking about is that at the beginning of Force Awakens, Poe is like, the Empire's whoever is the new Empire in the movie comes and he attacks this small village on this desert island, planet, whatever, and he's about to get in his X-wing, he's about to take off, but it gets shut up, and I was like, if the X-wing just lifted up 2 feet. At that moment, I'd be like, okay, we're in the movie, things are happening. But no, it doesn't. It gets shot up, and you don't have to spend special effects to like lift the X-wing 1 foot, much less 1 inch. So, and I felt like, and so like, there's whole things through the Force Awakens, and from what I've read, they did Force Awakens kind of on the cheap, if you will, if you in quotes again, on the cheap
as these things
go. But since it's Holo is a simple kind of plot, they kept things kind of good, kind of simple, and the acting was great. Supporting characters are great. Things are kind of a fast clip, and so the best part wasn't in the movie, but there's a little girl in the audience, and there's a reveal or twist, towards the end of the movie, and she goes, "What?" And if you've ever been to an Alamo Draft House, they have a strict no texting, no talking policy. So everyone's really kind of like is really quiet during those movies. And so just to have someone just like, what? Like just breaks, this like how quiet it is actually in the theater. And all the adults were we're just laughing because
the perfect moment. Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I think Star Wars is back with that. So and I hope Ron Howard comes back and does a sequel, so it's really great. So it has my seal of approval. So, and I hope it gets more love than it has. So, then it probably will do. But I think long term, it's as of right now, it's the best movie I think of the new crop. So
cool.
But yeah,
there might be a secret best movie out of the Rogue One deleted scenes, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think director, I forgot what his name is, who initially made it. He was making a war movie, is what kind of like gritty, and the Star Wars people, newly acquired Disney was like, oh, we need to make it more of a Star Wars aesthetic, when you think of Star Wars, and so they had to go back and change it up, and so, but yeah, so I think there is a good movie in there somewhere too, but
like how many editions of Blade Runner did they release over time? Like 5.
Exactly. But I think there's a good movie in Last Jedi, and you can definitely tell it in the deleted scenes, like you're talking about,
My daughter loved the prank scene.
Yeah, so. It makes so much. It makes everything better about it, and so that's awesome. That's good. Yeah, I think I'm hoping.
Cool.
Yeah, I think The Last Jedi, the best things that they put on film was the porgs. So.
Well, you had a cake with porgs. I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, that's actually Ari's birthday. Tradition so far is to do a geeky cake, and so this year we, and also we love, and she loves, mixing Star Wars and Star Trek together, like as a joke, like
just to make people talk.
Yeah, so we went to the Force Awakens premiere, and I dressed up as Chewbacca, and she went as like Nurse Chapel from Star Trek.
Perfect.
Yeah, and so she was like the only one, and so she was, so it was fun. But yeah, so her birthday quick cake, just for reference, was and she loves the new Star Trek Discovery show, and so which is only on CBS Access streaming service, which is whatever. And so I had the Star Trek logo for that, which is kind of like the badge communication thing, and then put a whole bunch of porgs around it. So, and that was kind of it. But yeah, perfect. So yeah, I was kind of racking my brain what to do, but porgs and Star Trek, I think, and with a triple thrown in for good measure. So.
Well, you've got to keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 7.
Okay. Next story. President can't block critics on Twitter. So a ruling came down. The president was actually sued, or I guess I don't think the president was sued, but was sued like that. It's unconstitutional for the president to block people with his Twitter account. So we're talking about the president's personal, if you will, Twitter account, and so he was blocking people. And so the judge ruled that since it's a public forum, the president can't use that, and that's what but also a fact that the judge also mentioned the fact that since he was actually announcing news, if you will, like, hey, I'm directing things to happen, whatever. So therefore he can't block people. But the thing is that he's not blocking people. This is my concern about that. Like, so in the whole analogy of a forum is like, what's a public forum? So you can't block people. It's like, well, politicians have forums all the time when they meet their constituents when they're on break, and you still have to talk one at a time, and you can't say, bad things to other people or else you get pulled by security guards. So, I mean, I really don't understand that analogy very well.
I think this is a place where it's going to be really weirdly evolving law for a while. Yeah. First of all, like Twitter in a lot of senses is actually not a public forum. It's a business, even if it doesn't really know how to be a business. Right. Of all the services out there, it's the one I've said the most times should be a public utility, because that's the only way I really see it surviving in the long run. Right. It just keeps lurching all over the place. But it's not. It's not there yet. I don't think we really had any idea what speech means in the age of tweets and gigantic volumes of conversation that clash and fly. Mm-hmm. And I also wonder, like, I think I can make a decent case for the president having to not block people, but how far down does that go?
Right.
I really don't like my governor very much. My town board members are Facebook friends with me, but I don't know how long that'll last.
Right.
How far does this go, and who does it affect?
Right, but his tweets, like, seriously, like, if you want to read his tweets, right, you can just go to, like, if you're using Google Chrome or you're using the browser,
incognito mode.
Yeah, so his tweets he's not blocking you from reading it if you just want to read the tweet. So, like, that's the thing. So to me, the analogy is like, you are annoying in a public, in a room. I want to get away from you. I'm not blocking you from talking. I just don't want to have a conversation with you. I want to go to the other side of the room. And
we'll put you in the room with the television instead of the live activity.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we know how any of this works yet. Like, I think that monkey running around San Antonio Airport is probably in just as good a communication situation as we are on these things. There are some interesting lines here. Like, obviously, the president uses that account for presidential business. Yeah. That I think is hard to argue with, and not every public official does that. I mean, I have friends who are public officials, and their Facebook feed is kids and parties and stuff like that. I don't think, though, that we have any idea. I don't know. We haven't even figured out etiquette, much less regulation on this.
Yeah, I think the only way to get around it right now would be, and you have politicians that don't conduct business on Twitter or announce things on Twitter. And so, like, I think what we could do is, like, if you are a congressperson, let's say, you can just have a press release and then, like, wait 15 minutes and then say, hey, this happened, whatever. And so you have a more traditional news release, and then you can do it on Twitter. Whereas it's where the president has been making news, like, this will happen on Monday, like, over the weekend or something like that, And so that's, like, he makes news that way. So I think that's so you can't just but you can still be snarky apparently on Twitter. So
that's what it's for.
Exactly.
Right? That's why we need to be a public utility. We must not run out of snark.
Exactly. It's just like, the snark meter is low. What are we gonna do? I don't know, Bob.
Exactly. Bring in the porgs.
Number 8.
Speaking of snark, how long have you been snarking on Twitter because how long have you been on Twitter?
I think I've been on since 2008, but I'm not positive. I can look that up even while we're here.
Because like what happened this week was like someone favorited a tweet that I don't remember writing, and then I looked into it as like I wrote it 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, why is my friend, who is a very busy individual who just got engaged, and so he's just like, he's traveling around the world all the time. I was just like, what's he doing reading my 10-year-old tweets? Like, was it really funny? Like, no. Was it really interesting? Like, no, because it was, I had no idea what I was doing on Twitter. And so I was like, okay, weird. And then another friend not only faved a tweet from 10 years ago, he retweeted it. And I was like, what's going on? And so then someone else liked it and retweeted it. I was like, and I looked at it, this tweet got 1 like 10 years ago. And and within a span of 15 minutes has been like liked twice and retweeted twice or something like that. So
turn of the zombie.
Yeah. I was like, well, thank you. I thought that was a really good tweet and it deserved more care and love than it got. So, but then it turns out there's Andy Bio, I believe I'm saying his name correctly.
Yes.
He's founded a XOXO conference, which I believe happens in Portland. And I hear nothing but rave things about it. He's actually he just tweeted out a search URL that you can actually find out what tweets your friends are making like 10 years ago.
Well, there's some fun things to it. I mean, I just looked it up. I started in February 2008, so I may be on this. When I went to look, it was interesting because it felt very different from my Twitter timeline as I remember it then. Mm-hmm. Because the people dominating it are people I have followed more recently than that. So I'm seeing tweets from people that I mostly know, or at least Twitter know, who I wasn't following at the time. Yeah. So it's like this whole other level of like, I knew this person then. I never heard them say that before. And it also gives you a really different sense of who is active on Twitter, because so many fewer people were on Twitter and so many fewer people were like tweeting all the time. I don't know how to describe it. It's not just a simple time machine. It's much weirder than that. Yeah. I would also love a service that would show me my timeline from 10 years ago, like what I was seeing. Yeah. But I don't know that that's so easy to create. So,
yeah, that'd be some processing powers there, I guess. Like, so basically, you just want to recreate what you're looking at in real time. I don't know. Yeah, so kind of cool. And then, yeah, so definitely, if you've been on Twitter, we'll have a link in the show notes so you can definitely see what's going on 10 years ago. But I think it's also the fact that it showed me tweets of people who I didn't know 10 years ago, but I'm now following. And if they happen to be on Twitter at the same time. So I was reading tweets from people like I didn't know who they were 10 years ago. And so it was like really weird to see what they were tweeting about. And so then, yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see like at what point we intersected and our tweets kind of like our relationship started. Like, I guess that's kind of weird. I'm not sure. Is that weird? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard of like any real fights breaking out. I did have a really confusing interaction with a troll who was unhappy with something I must have retweeted in 2008. But I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But maybe that "what are you talking about" thing is what's keeping the fights down. It's good.
Number 9.
In our last story, I guess also Twitter, we should talk about Twitter, is that Twitter announced the rules for political campaign ads. And so it was kind of an interesting thing. I think they didn't, I looked for like what was bad about it or what was kind of weird about it, but it just seems like common sense things to me. It was like, if you are a political campaigner, you need to show that you are running a political campaign, like that you are who you are. I guess get a blue check mark would be great. But like, you have a passport, make sure, or if you're running an ad, make sure you're like, I think you're a PAC, make sure you're like certified or FEIC compliant. And then make sure your profile, this one that was kind of weird. It was like, yeah, your profile photo for your account and your header photo and your website must be consistent with your handle's online presence. So I'm assuming that's like your presence on other platforms and the website as well. So
maybe.
So
I mean, campaigns tend to come up with, a logo and a look and that kind of stuff, and maybe that's a good connection. I mean, I think some of it is also just trying to the eggs, all of those eggs on Twitter, which are no longer eggs, but yeah. And I have seen people run political accounts without actually changing the avatar, which was really weird. This was years ago. I don't think I could find them again now, but like, are you serious?
Yeah, and now when I said new avatar is like this like blobs of a human icon, and I look at it now, I just think of that stacked art that you have of stones.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I think about, like, I see this like a stone thing, like this. Someone's actually creating a stone, like, environmental art piece right now. But yeah, so like, yeah, definitely need to have a profile photo, and then bio has valid contact information, and it's not, if you're not the entity, you need to like claim like who's it owned by. So basically, be more transparent about who's running the site or who's running the Twitter handoff.
I like all this stuff. I'm not sure that it'll necessarily play out the way we're hoping. But again, like I said, we don't know really what we're doing with Twitter. We're still figuring it out. I think there's going to be lots of people. There are so many ways with social media to do things weirdly. You don't even need bots. You just need a lot of people. I don't think we're done.
I think it's weird. Like we just talked about how like you can look to see what tweets you were making 10 years ago, but you said like we're still trying to figure out Twitter. So
well, 10 years is not that long.
Really?
I mean, in some ways, I feel like we're still trying to figure out the novel, and that's what, like 150 years. So we gave up on telegrams, but it's.
Did we? I'm going to telegram office right now.
Go ahead, send me a telegram. I'll be delighted when Western Union shows up at my doorstep.
I have no idea what I would tell you in a telegram, but yeah,
there would be a lot of stop. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll start using stop for.
Do you know how expensive stop is? Like if they pay you by word or letter for a telegram, that's expensive. Word stop. Unless there's a freebie, everything else costs. But
maybe stop was a freebie. I don't know.
So. All right. Yeah. So, sorry, I did cut you off there. So,
no, it's okay. The other thing I'm remembering is like Eric Meyer likes to talk about a book called The Victorian Internet, I think it is, about the telegraph and similar devices. So, a lot of these things we're talking about aren't actually that new. We just still haven't figured them out.
Cool. Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, I remember him talking about that. I think I'll look it up, read that one. But yeah, cool. Yeah, I just feel like but go back to Twitter ads. I think it's just making things more transparent. I guess I don't want to open a can of worms too much, but I think it shows you that I guess they're worried about people. I guess the main line here is just that foreign nationals are prohibited from targeting political campaign advertisements in the United States. So you have to prove, like, I guess you are in the United States or registered in the United States.
I'm kind of curious if they're going to make this, work for all countries. That would make sense, just for consistency's sake. You're doing a political ad in Canada. That's great. Make sure you're Canadian.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's like their policy affects all countries except Brazil, Morocco, Pakistan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Malaysia.
Well, I think they said that those prohibit political advertising
in general.
And I think, if I'm remembering right, so there are also countries that have political advertising is prohibited in a certain window before the election. So there's probably even more complication than shows up on the surface there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Also, I said FIEC. I meant the ads purchased by political community or candidate registered with the FEC. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I guess they're trying to get away from fake ads. That I guess that word they wanted to, or ads that would depress votes rather than attract or gain votes. I guess that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Okay. Any other ideas we want to talk about? I think that's pretty good.
I think I'm social media now.
Yeah, man, it's great. I like talking about intersection of culture and social media and stuff like that. I think it depresses me, but I'm glad we're talking about it. Makes me feel better. Get it out of my system.
That's the only way we're going to get through this. So
it's like I need to talk about all the messages I sent online and why I feel bad about it. So I think that's not a symptom at all of a larger problem. I think everything's great.
You send Shabaka and Porgs and stuff. You're doing great.
Yeah, so definitely go out there, see Solo. Let me know what you think of it. And talk about it. So, do you have any inclination to see Solo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my daughter is like, it's opening today. Can we go? I'm like, let's wait a couple of days at least.
Yeah.
She also doesn't like crowded movie theaters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's I'm a big fan of that. Yeah.
But if I was at the Alamo Draft House, it might be different. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have my spot where it's not too crowded. So, but Alamo Draft House. So I think like I have
our traditional pattern was to go see them on Christmas Eve when nobody was in the theater. Yeah. But releasing it in May makes Christmas Eve kind of unlikely. So
yeah, I mean, it might still be there. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure how popular of a run it's going to have. Maybe 6-month run. I don't know. So
yeah, almost. It would take us to Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah. It seems like a stretch. So we'll see it. We'll see it soon.
Yeah, I just feel like it's just probably too much. But I think like it was a sweet spot just to have a Star Wars movies at Christmas. I thought that would always be a good thing to have. So, but I don't know. I'm not Disney. So
these things are hard to make. I get that. Whatever works, it'll do.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Cool. Well, thanks so much for being on here. Like, where can people find you?
Well, on Twitter, which we've been talking about a lot lately, I'm at Simon Sainel, SIMONSTL. I'm also at SIMONSTL.com, and you can find all my contact info at the bottom of that page too, along with the GDPR compliance notification.
Oh, nice. Well, definitely got to look that one up. So, because I think
it just says I'm not tracking.
Yeah, that's a unique one. You have to go look it up and say like, hey, I was there and I saw it. So it's like going to Mount Rushmore. Gotta go see it. Cool. And I'm Telject on Twitter, TELEJECT. And thanks again for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Awesome. Till next time.